Stop. You haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Subscribe now. We have new stories every day. Now, let's go. The scent of motor oil and metal clung to Logan Stone's skin like a second layer as he wiped his calloused hands on a shop rag. Grease outlined the creases in his palms, marks of a man who had built everything he owned with his bare hands. At 38, his body remained as solid as the day he'd left the Marines, arms corded with muscle earned through years of physical labor rather than the manufactured bulk of a gym rat. He glanced at the clock hanging on the wall of his shop. 7:30. Another 14-hour day at Stone's Auto and Performance was drawing to a close. The neon sign outside flickered to life as dusk settled over the building. From the open bay door, he could see a line of gleaming muscle cars awaiting their owners. Camaros, Mustangs, Challengers, all bearing his signature touch. Not bad for a guy who'd started with nothing but a toolbox and grit. Heading out, boss, Felix, his head mechanic, called from beneath the hood of a '69 Chevelle. Yeah, finish up tomorrow. Tell Johnson his carburetor's fixed, but that transmission's gonna need a full rebuild. Felix nodded and returned to his work. Good kid, reliable, honest. Logan valued those qualities more than most. The drive home took 15 minutes on a good day. Today, Logan made it in 12, his thoughts already shifting to Area. 10 years of marriage hadn't dulled the initial attraction. At least not on his end. She was still the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. Those green eyes that had caught his attention across the crowded bar where she'd been working. That smile that could melt steel. He remembered how she'd flirted with him that night, leaning across the bar counter, letting her fingers linger on his when she handed him his drink. He pulled into the driveway of their 2-story house. Not a mansion, but comfortable, spacious, a home he'd provided through years of sweat and sacrifice. The porch light was on, but the house seemed oddly quiet. Inside, the air smelled of expensive perfume, but there was no dinner. The kitchen was spotless, untouched, no sign of cooking. Area. His voice echoed through the empty downstairs. Up here. Her voice floated down from their bedroom, distant and disinterested. Logan climbed the stairs, his boots heavy on the hardwood. He found Area in their walk-in closet, trying on outfits. 3 discarded dresses lay on the bed. Going somewhere? He asked, leaning against the doorframe. She barely glanced at him. Girls' night with Diana and Brianna. Her hands moved to her earlobes, fastening the diamond stud earrings he'd given her for their anniversary 2 years ago. Again, that's the 3rd time this week. Area shrugged, the gesture dismissive. We're planning Brianna's bachelorette party. Lots to organize. Logan's eyes flickered to her left hand. The platinum wedding band he'd saved 6 months for was conspicuously absent. Not the first time he'd noticed lately. You forgot your ring, he said, his tone remaining neutral. Oh. Area's fingers twitched. I took it off to shower. Must have left it in the bathroom. She didn't move to retrieve it, though. Logan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I'll grab takeout for dinner. Don't wait up, she said, reaching for her phone and frowning when she couldn't find it. Have you seen my phone? Downstairs, maybe. She brushed past him. The scent of her perfume, stronger than usual, was designer, expensive, the kind she wore when she wanted to impress. From the bedroom doorway, Logan watched her descend the stairs, her movements practiced and graceful. The black dress she'd chosen hugged curves that had somehow become more defined recently. The gym membership she'd insisted on 3 months ago seemed to be paying off. The gym. Iron Titan, owned by Cole Donovan, a former college football player turned fitness entrepreneur. Logan had met him once, when Area asked him to come along to sign up. He remembered the way Cole had looked at his wife, eyes lingering a second too long on places a married woman shouldn't be looked at. Logan heard Area's exclamation of relief from downstairs as she found her phone. Then silence. She'd been guarding that device like it contained state secrets lately. Password changed. Face always angled away when a text came in. Small things. Nothing concrete. But Logan Stone hadn't survived 2 tours in Afghanistan by ignoring his instincts. Something wasn't right. He followed her downstairs and found her in the kitchen, phone clutched in her hand, thumbs moving rapidly across the screen. "Who's that?" he asked casually, opening the refrigerator. Arya startled, almost dropping the device. "Just Diana. Confirming plans." She slipped the phone into her purse and grabbed her keys from the counter. "Don't forget to lock up when you go to bed." As if he'd ever forgotten in 15 years of ingrained military discipline. "Have fun," he said, not missing how she didn't kiss him goodbye. She hadn't for weeks now. The front door closed, and Logan stood in the silent kitchen. He pulled a beer from the fridge, twisted the cap off, and took a long drink. Through the window, he watched Arya's BMW back out of the driveway. 10 years. 10 years of building a life together, of working 60-hour weeks to give her the lifestyle she wanted, of believing they were partners. Logan took another swig of beer. He wasn't a jealous man, wasn't controlling, but he also wasn't a fool. The signs had been accumulating for months. The sudden interest in fitness after a lifetime of avoiding exercise. The girls' nights that multiplied from monthly to weekly to nearly every other day. The unexplained expenses on their credit card for boutiques he'd never heard of. The way she'd started leaving her wedding ring accidentally at home. And most telling of all, the way their sex life had dwindled from passionate to obligatory to practically non-existent. His phone buzzed. A text from Felix about a part they needed for the Chevelle. Work. Reliable. Straightforward. Unlike the minefield his marriage had apparently become. Logan finished his beer and ordered pizza. While waiting, he went to their home office and opened his laptop. The browser history had been cleared again. Arya wasn't technologically savvy enough to know that clearing history didn't erase everything, and as the owner of a high-end auto shop, Logan had learned enough about computers to keep his business systems running smoothly. Still, he didn't dig deeper. Not yet. Evidence gathered in anger was often incomplete. Patience. That was what Staff Sergeant Morales had drilled into him. Rush the recon. You're done. Period. The doorbell rang. Pizza had arrived. Logan paid the delivery kid and took the box to the living room. He ate mechanically, barely tasting the food, mind working through scenarios, possibilities, options. By 11, Arya hadn't returned or texted. Not unusual lately. By midnight, Logan had cleaned up, locked the house, and gone to bed, though sleep remained distant. At 1, he heard the garage door, soft footsteps on the stairs, the bathroom door closing, water running. Logan lay still, eyes closed, breathing steady, when Arya finally slid into bed beside him. She smelled of mint toothpaste and fresh perfume, recently applied, not the faded scent of someone returning from a long evening out. She kept to her side of the bed. No good night. No touch. Another piece of evidence in a growing pile. Sleep finally came around 3, but even then Logan's mind continued working the problem, because that's what this was now, a problem, and problems had solutions. He just needed to find the right one. For the next week, Logan watched, observed, cataloged. Marines weren't trained to act on hunches, but to gather intelligence methodically. Arya's girls' nights followed a pattern. Tuesdays and Thursdays, occasionally Saturdays, always after her evening workout at Iron Titan, always dressed to kill, always returning after midnight. Tonight was Tuesday. Logan called Felix from the shop. Need to head out early. Family stuff. You good to close up? No problem, boss. I'll lock everything down. Logan drove home, parking his black F-250 in the garage. The house was empty. Arya would be at her spinning class until 6, then home to shower and change before her girls' night. He made himself a sandwich and ate standing at the kitchen counter, staring at nothing. The house felt hollow lately, like the foundation had cracked without any visible signs on the surface. His phone buzzed. A text from an old Marine buddy, Neil, wanting to grab beers next weekend. Logan tapped out a reply, realizing it had been months since he'd done anything social. All his energy had gone into the business and trying to maintain a marriage that seemed to be slipping through his fingers like sand. The garage door hummed at 6:15. Aria's BMW pulled in beside his truck. She looked surprised to see him home early as she entered. Gym bag slung over her shoulder, hair pulled back in a ponytail, skin glistening with post-workout sweat. "You're home," she said, stating the obvious. "Finished up early." He nodded toward her gym bag. "Good workout." "Brutal. Cole pushed us hard today." New EI8 routine. Cole. First name basis with the owner. Logan noted it, face neutral. "Heading out tonight?" he asked, rinsing his plate in the sink. "Yes. Meeting the girls at 8. Is that a problem?" Logan turned, expression level. "Why would it be a problem?" "No reason." She shifted the gym bag to her other shoulder. "I'm going to shower." Logan nodded and watched her climb the stairs. Once she was out of sight, he glanced at the counter where she'd set her purse. Her phone was sticking out of the side pocket. He wasn't proud of what he was considering. An invasion of privacy crossed a line in a marriage. But so did lying, and his gut told him that's exactly what was happening. Before he could decide, the phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a notification. From where he stood, Logan could see a name. Cole Donovan. His blood cooled to ice water in his veins. The shower started upstairs. Logan moved to the counter. The phone buzzed again. Another text. He could see part of the message preview. "Dan, baby, last night was insane. Can't wait for round." The rest was cut off. The phone required a passcode to unlock. Logan stepped back, a calm settling over him. The same calm that had descended during firefights when chaos erupted around him, but his mind sharpened to crystal clarity. He now had confirmation. Not complete, but enough. Upstairs, the shower stopped. Logan moved to the living room and turned on the TV, flipping to a basketball game he had no interest in. His mind was elsewhere, processing, planning. Aria came downstairs 40 minutes later, hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless, a red dress he'd never seen before hugging her body, ending mid-thigh. 4-inch heels added to her height. The overall effect was stunning, and not at all what someone would wear for a casual night with girlfriends. "You look nice," he said evenly. She glanced at him, almost flinching at the compliment. "Thanks. Don't wait up. Have fun with the girls," he said, eyes on the TV. "Tell Diana and Brianna I said hi." A brief hesitation. "I will." She grabbed her purse from the counter, checked for her phone. Logan heard the faint buzz of another incoming message, saw how her face changed when she looked at the screen. Definitely not an expression for a girlfriend texting about meeting locations. The front door closed behind her. Logan waited until he heard her car pull away before he moved. In the kitchen, he opened the drawer beneath the coffee maker and pulled out a small black device, a GPS tracker. He'd bought it 3 days ago, but hadn't been certain he would use it. Now he was. He slipped on a jacket and walked outside. The night air was cool against his face. He got into his truck but didn't start it yet. First, he opened the tracking app on his phone. The small blue dot that represented Aria's car was moving steadily away from their neighborhood. Logan started his truck and followed the dot on his screen, never too close, but close enough to confirm what he already suspected. 20 minutes later, the blue dot stopped. Logan checked the address. Not a restaurant, not a bar, but a residential area. He pulled over 2 blocks away and checked property records on his phone. The address belonged to Cole Donovan. Logan sat in his truck, breathing steadily. The rage building inside him was a tangible thing, a creature with claws and teeth, but he contained it, controlled it, used it to sharpen his focus rather than cloud it. He watched the blue dot remain stationary for 3 hours. At 11:45, it began moving again, this time toward a cocktail bar downtown, Diana's favorite spot, creating an alibi by meeting the girls for a quick drink before heading home. Logan drove back to their house, arriving before Area. He stored the tracking information in his phone, then went inside and up to bed. When Area returned at 1:30, he pretended to be asleep. She showered again before coming to bed. In the darkness, Logan's eyes remained open, staring at the ceiling. The decision had been made. There would be consequences, but not yet. Not until he had everything in place. Because Logan Stone didn't just react. He planned, he executed, and he never, ever lost. The next morning, Logan woke at 5, as usual. Area was still asleep, her back to his side of the bed. He dressed silently and went downstairs to make coffee. By the time he left for work, she hadn't stirred. At the shop, he buried himself in engine work. Physical labor helped focus his thoughts, the complexity of high-performance engines requiring concentration that pushed other concerns temporarily aside. Around noon, he called his buddy Neil, who now worked for a private security firm. "Neil, need a favor." "Name it." "Discreet surveillance. One location, 3 days." A pause. "Personal or business?" "Personal." Another pause. "Legal?" "Yes." "My property, my business. Just need documentation." "Text me the details. I'll call you back." Logan hung up and returned to the Corvette he was modifying. By afternoon, Neil had confirmed he could handle the job. It would cost, but money wasn't Logan's concern right now. That evening, Logan told Area he had a business conference in Glenville that weekend, an automotive expo where he might pick up new clients and suppliers. He'd be gone Friday morning through Sunday night. "The whole weekend?" she asked, poorly concealing the note of relief in her voice. "Yeah. Networking opportunity. Can't pass it up." "Of course." She smiled, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her in weeks. "I'll be fine here, probably catch up with the girls." "Sure you will," Logan thought. Thursday night, he packed a suitcase, made hotel reservations he wouldn't keep, arranged for Felix to manage the shop. Friday morning, he kissed Area goodbye, a quick peck that she barely returned. "Have a good trip," she said, already reaching for her phone. Logan drove to the shop, parked his truck in the back bay where it wouldn't be visible from the street, and called Neil. "All set. Cameras are in place, remote access established. Here's the login," Neil said, texting him credentials. "Don't need to know details, but whatever you're looking for, I hope you don't find it. Appreciate it." Logan worked on inventory and paperwork until evening. At 6, he drove to a neighborhood 2 streets over from his house and parked. From his phone, he accessed the security feed Neil had set up. The camera showed the exterior of his house. At 7:15, all the lights came on. Area moving around inside. By 8 o'clock, she was dressed in a black dress he'd never seen before, more revealing than what she usually wore. She spent extra time on her makeup, her hair. At 8:30, she left the house, locking the door behind her. Logan started his truck and followed the GPS tracker at a distance. As expected, Area drove straight to Cole Donovan's house. He parked where he could see the front entrance and watched as she walked to the door, with the confidence of someone who'd done this before, watched as Cole opened it wearing nothing but jeans, bare-chested, muscled, and tattooed, watched as Area practically threw herself into his arms, watched as they kissed. Deep and familiar, before Cole pulled her inside and closed the door. Logan sat still, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. The evidence was irrefutable now. His wife was sleeping with another man, had been for who knew how long. Yet instead of a red haze of rage, Logan felt an icy precision take over, the same mental state that had kept him alive in combat. Emotions existed, powerful and raw, but controlled, channeled. "All right, tough guy," he whispered. "You wanna act like a man. Let's see if you can fight like one." For the next 2 days, Logan documented everything. Times, locations, He discovered that the affair had likely been going on for months, that Area had been funneling money to Cole, transfers from their joint account to his business account, disguised as personal training sessions and membership fees. By Sunday evening, Logan had a complete picture and a plan. Area texted him Sunday afternoon. "What time are you getting home?" He replied, "Late. Don't wait up." He returned to the house after midnight, making enough noise to ensure she knew he was home. She pretended to be asleep. He pretended to believe her. Monday morning, he left for work as usual, then called his lawyer at 9. "Need divorce papers drawn up today." "Grounds?" his lawyer asked. "Adultery, with evidence." "That'll take a couple days to prepare properly. You have until Thursday." By Wednesday, the papers were ready. Logan reviewed them in his lawyer's office, made a few adjustments, then took the manila envelope and placed it in his truck. Thursday arrived, the day he'd selected to spring the trap, not out of emotion, but because tactical timing mattered in any operation. It was time to confront Cole Donovan. Iron Titan Gym occupied a converted warehouse on the edge of downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows allowed passersby to witness the beautiful people inside torturing themselves on gleaming equipment. The logo, a stylized metal giant holding a barbell, was emblazoned across the front in chrome lettering. Logan parked his truck in the lot and sat for a moment, studying the building. Thursday, 5:30 p.m., according to the schedule he'd found online. Cole would be finishing a group training session now. The busiest time of day, when the after-work crowd filled the place. Perfect. Logan stepped out of his truck, the cool evening air filling his lungs. He wore jeans, work boots, and a plain black t-shirt that stretched across his broad shoulders. No need for gym clothes. He wasn't here to work out. He entered through the front doors, the blast of air conditioning and thumping music hitting him immediately. The reception desk was manned by a young woman with a perfect physique and perfect teeth. "Hi, welcome to Iron Titan." First time. Her smile was practiced, commercial. Logan didn't return it. "I'm looking for Cole. He'll want to see me." "Do you have an appointment?" "Mr. Donovan's schedule is pretty." Sir, you can't just." He ignored her, scanning the open space. Weight machines lined one wall, treadmills and ellipticals another. In the center, an open area where a group of men were gathered, laughing and spotting each other on bench presses. Cole stood in the middle, a protein shake in one hand, the other gesturing as he told some story that had his audience captivated. At 35, he looked like he'd walked out of a fitness magazine. 6'2", muscles defined but not bulky, tattoo sleeves covering both arms, perfect white teeth flashing as he laughed at his own joke. Logan moved toward the group, steady and deliberate. A few gym-goers noticed him, the guy in work clothes, clearly out of place among the spandex and tank tops. One of Cole's friends noticed him first, nudging Cole mid-story. Cole turned, his smile faltering for just a second, then returning, wider, cockier. Well, Cole said loudly enough for his friends to hear. "Look who decided to join the fit people. His wife's been coming here for months, so maybe he finally realized he could use some muscle." His buddies chuckled on cue, 5 of them, all built like Cole, but none with the same presence. They were extras in Cole's story, background characters. Logan stopped 10 feet away. His face revealed nothing. "Cole," he said flatly. Cole handed his protein shake to one of his friends and stepped forward. The smile remained, but his eyes had turned calculating. "Logan Stone, to what do I owe the pleasure?" Finally decided to build some real muscle instead of just turning wrenches. More sycophantic laughter from his entourage. Logan didn't flinch, didn't smile. "We need to talk." Cole spread his arms wide. "Here I am. Man. Talk." By now, other gym members had noticed the tension. The music still pounded, but conversations had quieted. The receptionist was on the phone, probably calling security or a manager, not realizing the owner was the cause of the disturbance. "Privately," Logan said. Cole snorted. "Look, man, I get it. You're mad, and I understand why. He lowered his voice, but not enough that his friends couldn't hear. But Aria made her choice. You got two options. Walk away quietly, or face me like a man. Logan took another step forward, his voice remaining low, controlled, and dangerous. You want to keep your teeth whole, or in pieces. Cole's smile slipped. Is that a threat? In my gym, surrounded by my people. He laughed and turned to his friends. Can you believe this guy? His wife's been coming here for months, practically begging for a real man's attention, and he shows up making threats. Logan moved. No telegraph, no warning. One moment he was standing still. The next, his forehead connected with the bridge of Cole's nose. The sound of cartilage breaking echoed across the suddenly silent gym. Cole staggered back, blood cascading down his face. Shock replaced arrogance in his eyes. What the? Logan didn't let him finish. He closed the distance in one stride, grabbed Cole by the throat, and slammed him into a weight rack. Barbells and plates crashed to the floor as Cole struggled for balance, for breath. You thought I was weak. Logan growled, face inches from Cole's. Blood from Cole's broken nose spattered Logan's shirt. You thought I'd just let you take my wife, my life. Cole swung wildly, a desperate right hook aimed at Logan's head. But military combat training wasn't something you forgot. Logan stepped inside the punch, letting Cole's arm sail past his ear, then drove an uppercut into the taller man's solar plexus. Air exploded from Cole's lungs. He doubled over, gasping. Logan stepped back, giving Cole space to recover slightly. This wasn't about a quick beatdown. This was about a message. Cole's friends had frozen, watching the scene unfold. None of them moved to help, perhaps shocked at seeing their invincible leader bleeding and gasping, or at the absolute control and precision of Logan's violence. Whatever the reason, they kept their distance. Cole pushed himself upright, blood streaming down his face and chin, staining his white tank top. To hell with you. He wheezed, raising his fists in a shaky boxing stance. Logan didn't bother with a fighting posture. He simply waited, centered and ready. Cole lunged forward, throwing another wild punch. Logan slipped it easily, stepping to the side and delivering a brutal right cross to Cole's temple that sent the gym owner sprawling. The gym remained dead silent, except for the music still blasting from the speakers. Everyone watched, immobile, as though a nature documentary about predators was playing out. Cole tried to get up, slipped in his own blood, then managed to rise to his knees. Logan approached slowly, then crouched beside him. He gripped Cole's hair, forcing the man to look at him. Next time you touch something that belongs to me, Logan whispered, loud enough for only Cole to hear, I'll bury you. He released Cole's head with a slight shove, stood, and straightened his shirt. Blood, Cole's, not his, spattered on the front. Logan looked at the silent crowd, then at Cole's friends, who still hadn't moved. Gym's closed, he announced, then turned and walked out the same way he'd come in. The receptionist shrank back as he passed. Outside, the evening air felt cleansing after the sweat and disinfectant smell of the gym. Logan got into his truck, started the engine, and drove home. Not once did his hands shake, not once did his heart race beyond control. The Marines had taught him to channel adrenaline, to use it rather than be ruled by it. But they'd also taught him to complete the mission, and this one was only half done. Logan had barely pulled into his driveway when his phone exploded with texts from Aria. What the heck did you do? Cole is in the emergency room. Answer me. I'm coming home right now. He ignored them all, went inside, and made himself a cup of coffee. Then he sat at the kitchen table and waited, the manila envelope containing the divorce papers placed precisely in the center. 15 minutes later, the sound of tires screeching in the driveway announced Aria's arrival. The front door flew open, then slammed shut. Heels clicked rapidly across the hardwood floor. Aria burst into the kitchen, face flushed, eyes wild. She'd been crying, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. She wore workout clothes, the expensive kind, but Logan doubted she'd done any actual exercise today. "What the hell did you do?" she screamed, throwing her purse onto the counter. Logan took a sip of his coffee, regarding her with calm indifference. "You know exactly what I did. You broke his nose, cracked his rib. They're talking about pressing charges. Let them try." Aria stared at him, chest heaving with emotion. "Have you lost your mind? You assaulted him in front of 50 witnesses. And yet, I'm not the one who's going to end up destroyed by this," Logan said, voice still level. "That would be you. And him." "What are you talking about?" A hint of unease crept into her anger. Logan gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit down, Aria." "I don't want to sit down. I want you to explain why you attacked Cole." "Sit down." The command was delivered quietly, but with unmistakable authority. Perhaps it was the tone, or the look in his eyes. Whatever the reason, Aria hesitated, then slowly lowered herself into the chair. Logan looked at her, really looked at her, the woman he had loved for a decade, built a life with, who had betrayed him without a second thought. "What I should have done," he said, pushing the manila envelope across the table. "The moment I saw you for what you really are." Aria stared at the envelope. "What is this?" "Divorce papers." The color drained from her face. "Divorce?" "Logan, that's... You can't just..." "I already did." Her eyes darted from the envelope to his face, searching for some sign of uncertainty, finding none. "This is insane. So I've been spending time at the gym." "So what? That doesn't mean..." "Stop." Logan's voice cut her off like a blade. "I know everything. I've known for weeks." "Known what?" "There's nothing." "There is. Tuesday and Thursday nights, occasionally Saturdays. Not with Diana and Brianna, but with Cole Donovan." Logan's eyes never left hers. "In his bed. Sometimes on his couch. Once on his kitchen counter, which I found particularly creative." Aria's mouth opened, but no words came out. "I have photos, videos, bank statements showing transfers from our joint account to his, text messages." He tapped the envelope. "It's all documented. And it's all in here." A tear slid down Aria's cheek, smearing her makeup further. "Logan, it was a mistake. I was lonely. You're always at the shop. And... don't." His voice hardened. "Don't you dare try to make this my fault. I worked 60-hour weeks to build a business so you could have the lifestyle you wanted. The house, the car, the vacations, the shopping sprees." Aria's face shifted, shock giving way to calculation. Logan could almost see the gears turning as she searched for an angle. "We can fix this," she said, reaching across the table for his hand. "We could go to counseling. I'll stop seeing him. I'll prove to you that." Logan pulled his hand away before she could touch him. "There's no we anymore. You're a liar, a cheater, and a parasite. You get nothing. Nothing." Her eyes flashed. "I'm your wife. I've sacrificed years of my life for this marriage." A harsh bark of laughter escaped Logan's throat. "Sacrificed? What exactly have you sacrificed, Aria?" "Your career as a bartender, the one where you flirted for tips while looking for a man who could support you. I gave you everything, and it still wasn't enough. I have rights. Half of everything we've built is legally mine." Logan smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Is it? Check the paperwork, Aria. I'm giving you 1 week to move out. The BMW stays, title's in my name. The house stays, also in my name. The joint account is already frozen." Aria's face twisted with rage. "You worthless bastard. You can't do this to me. It's already done." Logan stood, towering over her. 1 week. Then I changed the locks." She rose to face him, tears streaming, eyes burning with hatred. "You'll regret this. I'll fight you for everything." "With what money? With what lawyer?" Logan stepped closer, voice dropping to a near whisper. "Your boyfriend's gym is failing, his credit is shot. And now, thanks to today, He's facing potential charges if he comes near me again. He can't help you. Aria's shoulders slumped as the reality sank in. Where am I supposed to go? Not my problem. Logan turned away, washing his coffee cup in the sink with deliberate care. You made your choice. Logan, please. Her voice broke. I made a mistake. He dried the cup and placed it in the cabinet before facing her again. No, you made a choice. Every Tuesday, every Thursday, every time you lied to my face. Those weren't mistakes, Aria. Those were decisions. He walked past her toward the stairs. I'll be sleeping in the guest room until you're gone. Don't come in. Don't try to talk to me. You're dead to me now. Logan. She called after him, desperation clear in her voice. He didn't look back, didn't acknowledge her. In his mind, she was already gone. The week that followed was a silent war. Aria alternated between tearful pleading, cold fury, and desperate attempts at negotiation. Logan remained unmoved, speaking only when absolutely necessary, spending most of his time at the shop. On the 5th day, Logan received a call from his lawyer. She's hired someone. Russell Moran. Logan knew the name. Moran specialized in high-conflict divorces, usually representing wives seeking maximum settlements. When's the hearing? Next Thursday. She's contesting everything, claiming emotional abandonment, that she contributed to the growth of your business, that she deserves alimony. She'll get nothing, Logan said flatly. Her lawyer's good. He'll try to paint you as controlling, possibly abusive. The incident at the gym doesn't help. Stick to the plan. Use the evidence, all of it. Got it. Start with the affair documentation. Hold the financial evidence in reserve. Let her hang herself first. The day of the hearing arrived. Logan wore a charcoal suit, white shirt, no tie. Professional but not pretentious. He drove himself to the courthouse, arrived 20 minutes early, and waited in a conference room with his lawyer, Mr. Jackson. Aria arrived 5 minutes before the scheduled time, wearing a conservative navy dress that made her look like a respectable businesswoman rather than a cheating wife. Her lawyer, Moran, was a silver-haired man in his 60s, wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. The hearing began promptly at 9. Judge Harlow, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, reviewed the initial filing. This is a petition for divorce on grounds of adultery, she noted, looking over her glasses at both parties. Mrs. Stone is contesting both the grounds and the proposed settlement. Is that correct, Mr. Moran? Moran stood, buttoning his suit jacket. Yes, Your Honor. While my client admits to certain indiscretions, she contends that Mr. Stone's proposed settlement is vindictive and fails to recognize her contributions to their marital estate. We're seeking the standard division of assets and appropriate spousal support. Judge Harlow nodded. Mr. Jackson, your response. Logan's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client has provided conclusive evidence of Mrs. Stone's infidelity, which under state law is grounds for consideration in asset division. Furthermore, we have documentation showing Mrs. Stone has been diverting marital funds. Moran scoffed. Your Honor, these are unsubstantiated accusations. Judge Harlow raised a hand. I'll review the evidence before making determinations. Mr. Jackson, please present your documentation regarding the alleged adultery. Logan watched as his lawyer submitted surveillance photos, screenshots of text messages, GPS tracking data. Aria's face grew increasingly pale. Moran whispered urgently in her ear. Mrs. Stone, Judge Harlow said, reviewing the materials. Did you inform your counsel of the extent of this relationship before today? Aria squirmed in her seat. Not everything, Your Honor. Moran looked distinctly unhappy. And these bank transfers to Iron Titan Gym, totaling over $15,000 in the past 4 months. Were these for legitimate services rendered? Aria glanced at Logan, then back at the judge. They were for personal training and equipment usage fees. Judge Harlow's eyebrow raised. Equipment usage. I see. She turned to Moran. Counselor, given this evidence, do you wish to amend your client's position before we proceed? Moran conferred with Area, whose face had hardened into a mask of defiance. Your Honor, regardless of any personal indiscretions, my client is entitled to equitable division of marital property. Mr. Stone's business grew substantially during their marriage, and, actually, Your Honor, Mr. Jackson interrupted, we have additional documentation regarding the financial aspects of this case. He presented another set of papers, the complete financial history of the marriage. Bank records showing that Stone's auto and performance had been established 3 years before the marriage. Documentation that all major assets, the house, vehicles, investments, had been purchased with business proceeds and maintained in Logan's name only, and a prenuptial agreement Area had apparently forgotten existed. As each piece of evidence was presented, Area's expression shifted from defiance to disbelief to dawning horror. Furthermore, Logan's lawyer continued, we have proof that Mrs. Stone has never been employed during the marriage, has made no financial contributions to the household or business, and has maintained a personal spending habit consuming approximately 60% of Mr. Stone's after-tax income. He presented credit card statements showing Area's extravagant spending on clothing, jewelry, spa treatments, and most recently, gifts for Cole Donovan. Judge Harlow reviewed all the documentation, then looked up. Given the evidence, I'm prepared to make a ruling. She adjusted her glasses. The petition for divorce on grounds of adultery is granted. Regarding asset division, the prenuptial agreement is valid and enforceable. All business assets remain with Mr. Stone. The marital home, being purchased with business proceeds and maintained in Mr. Stone's name only, remains his property. Area gasped audibly. Vehicle ownership remains as currently titled. Mrs. Stone is entitled to her personal effects and items purchased specifically for her use, excluding items valued over $5,000, which are subject to the prenuptial terms. No alimony is awarded. She looked directly at Area. Mrs. Stone, I suggest you find employment quickly. You have 30 days to vacate the marital home. Area turned to Moran, who was already gathering papers, clearly eager to exit this disaster of a case. Do something, she hissed. Appeal, he muttered, but it'll cost, and chances are slim with this evidence. Judge Harlow banged her gavel. Court is adjourned. Logan stood, buttoned his suit jacket, and walked out without looking at Area. Outside the courthouse, he breathed deeply, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. Not joy, not yet, but the beginning of closure. His phone buzzed. A text from Felix about a client's car being ready for pickup. Life continued. Work waited. Reliable. Consistent. As he walked to his truck, he saw Area exit the courthouse, her expression shell-shocked. She spotted him and rushed over, grabbing his arm. Logan, please. I made a mistake. He looked at her hand on his arm, then into her eyes. You made a choice. He removed her hand gently but firmly and continued to his truck. Behind him, he heard the sound of tires on pavement. A tow truck pulled up in front of Area's BMW. The driver got out, clipboard in hand. Area Stone. That's me, she stammered. What's going on? Repossession order for a 2023 BMW X5. Vehicle is listed under Logan Stone, with you as an authorized driver only. You can't do this. Area turned to Logan, who had paused to watch. Logan. He got into his truck and started the engine, watching in the rearview mirror as the tow operator hooked up the BMW. Area stood on the sidewalk, tears streaming, designer purse clutched to her chest, the only valuable thing she still possessed. Logan put the truck in gear and drove away without looking back. Life settled into a new rhythm for Logan. The house felt emptier without Area, but also cleaner somehow, like a wound that had been lanced, allowing the infection to drain away. He expanded the shop's hours, took on new clients, hired 2 more mechanics. Work filled his days. At night, he sometimes sat on his back deck with a beer, watching the stars. feeling the hollow spaces inside him gradually shrink. He heard through mutual acquaintances that Aria had moved in with a friend temporarily, then left town. She'd asked Cole to take her in, but he'd refused. His gym was struggling. His reputation had been damaged after word spread about what happened. Nobody wanted to train with a man who'd been so easily dismantled in his own facility. 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, Logan was alone at the shop late one evening. Felix and the others had gone home. He was working on a '67 Mustang Shelby, a passion project for a wealthy client who wanted the classic restored to better than original condition. The sound of tires on gravel outside caught his attention. The shop was closed, sign off, but someone had pulled into the lot. Logan wiped his hands on a rag and moved toward the bay door. Through the windows, he saw a beaten-up Honda Civic parked haphazardly. The driver's door opened, and Cole Donovan stumbled out. Even from a distance, Logan could tell Cole was drunk. He swayed on his feet, then reached back into the car and pulled out a baseball bat. Logan stood in the shadowed doorway, watching as Cole staggered toward the shop, bat dragging on the ground behind him. His face was still bruised from their last encounter, though the worst of the swelling had subsided. His once pristine physique seemed softer, less defined. He'd clearly been hitting the bottle more than the gym. "Stone," Cole bellowed into the night. "I know you're in there. Come out, you jerk." Logan stepped through the bay door into the floodlit parking area. "I'm right here." Cole startled, then steadied himself. "You think this is over?" He gestured wildly with the bat. "You think you won? You ruined everything. My gym is failing, clients dropping like flies. All because of you." "No," Logan said calmly. "Because of you. Screw you." Cole spat, taking an unsteady step forward. "You embarrassed me. Took everything from me. You took my reputation. You took it from yourself," Logan said, not backing away. "The moment you decided to sleep with another man's wife." Cole's face contorted with rage. "She came to me, begged for it, said you couldn't satisfy her." Logan didn't react to the taunt. "And now she's gone. So what does that leave you? Drunk, alone, failing." "Shut up." Cole raised the bat and charged forward, swinging wildly. Logan didn't dodge. Instead, he stepped into the swing, caught the bat mid-arc with one hand, and used Cole's own momentum to tear it from his grip. The bat clattered to the ground as Logan simultaneously drove his fist into Cole's ribs, the same spot he'd injured before. Cole gasped and dropped to his knees, clutching his side. "You broke it again," he wheezed, dropping to all fours. "Lucky for you, I don't hit a man when he's down," Logan said, kicking the bat away. "Unless he gives me no choice." Cole looked up, face twisted with pain and hatred. "You think you're better than me? You're nothing. A grease monkey playing tough guy." Logan crouched beside him, voice low. "You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about being better. This is about consequences. You want to fool around with married women. Fine. But own the fallout. You want to blame everyone else for your failures. That's why you'll always lose." He rose to his full height, looking down at Cole with something close to pity. "Next time you step into my world, make sure you're ready to die in it, because I won't hold back a third time." Cole coughed, spitting onto the gravel. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is." Logan turned his back on Cole and walked toward the shop. "Go home, Donovan. Sober up. Start over somewhere else. There's nothing left for you here." Behind him, he heard Cole struggle to his feet. "You can't just walk away." Logan paused but didn't turn around. "I'm not walking away. I'm moving forward. Something you should learn to do." He continued into the shop, the door closing behind him with a finality that echoed in the night. Through the window, he watched Cole stand, swaying for a long moment, then stumble back to his car. The man sat in the driver's seat for several minutes before starting the engine and driving away, tires spitting gravel. Logan returned to the Shelby, picking up his wrench and resuming work where he'd left off. His hands were steady, his breathing normal. The confrontation hadn't raised his heart rate or broken his concentration, because in the end, Cole Donovan was just another obstacle he'd overcome, no longer even the most challenging one. 6 months passed. Winter gave way to spring, and spring to early summer. Stone's auto and performance expanded, taking over the vacant building next door. Logan hired 3 more mechanics and a front desk manager. His reputation for quality work on high-performance vehicles spread beyond the city, bringing in clients from across the state. On a warm Saturday morning, Logan stood in his driveway washing his truck. The neighborhood was quiet and peaceful, children riding bikes up and down the street, sprinklers hissing on freshly mowed lawns. A silver Audi pulled up to the curb, and a woman stepped out. Brianna, one of Aria's old friends. She approached hesitantly, sunglasses perched on top of her head. "Logan, got a minute?" He turned off the hose, wiping his hands on his jeans. "Sure." Brianna looked around, as if making sure no one was listening. "I thought you should know Aria's back in town." Logan's expression didn't change. "That so?" "Yeah, she's not doing great. The guy she was staying with in Colorado kicked her out. She's been asking around for places to crash." "Why tell me?" Logan asked, genuinely curious. Brianna shifted uncomfortably. "She's been talking about coming to see you. Says she wants to make amends, that she's changed." The slight smile tugged at Logan's mouth. "Has she?" "No." Brianna was blunt. "She wants money, or a place to stay, or both. Figured you should have a heads up." Logan nodded. "Thanks. For what it's worth." Brianna added, "I'm sorry about everything. We should have told you what was going on. You were her friend, not mine." "I get it. Still." Brianna sighed. "It was wrong." She glanced at her watch. "I should go. Just be careful, okay?" She's desperate. After Brianna left, Logan finished washing his truck, mind turning over the new information. If Aria was back and desperate, she might be trouble, but he was beyond caring. She had no power over him anymore. 3 days later, as he was closing up the shop, he saw her. Aria stood across the street, watching him. She'd lost weight. Her once designer clothes looked cheap and worn. Her hair, previously colored and styled monthly, was grown out, dark roots showing. She crossed the street and approached, eyes uncertain. Logan waited, keys in hand, neither welcoming nor retreating. "Logan," she said when she reached him, her voice quieter than he remembered. "You look good. Business seems to be booming." "It is." He didn't elaborate. An awkward silence fell. Once they'd shared a bed, a home, a life. Now they were strangers with bad history. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she finally said. "About us, about what happened." "There is no us." She flinched at his directness. "I know. I wanted to apologize. What I did was wrong. I see that now." Logan studied her face, searching for sincerity and finding only calculation. "Why are you really here, Aria?" Her eyes dropped to the ground. "I need help," she admitted. "Things haven't been good. I lost my job in Colorado. I've got nowhere to stay, and I thought maybe you could help me, just until I get back on my feet. Alone, maybe, or I could stay in your guest room for a few weeks." Logan almost laughed. "Almost. You're asking me for money and a place to stay after everything." "I know it sounds crazy," she said quickly, "but we were married for 10 years. That has to count for something." "It counted for a lot," Logan agreed. "Until you threw it away." Tears welled in Aria's eyes. "Please, Logan. I've got nothing. No one." For a brief moment, Logan felt the faintest tug of pity, but it dissipated quickly, replaced by clarity. This woman had lied to him, cheated on him, then tried to take everything. Her tears were just another manipulation tactic. "No," he said simply. She blinked, tears spilling. "Just like that. Just like that. What am I supposed to do?" Her voice rose, edged with hysteria. "Sleep in my car, on the street." Logan shrugged. "Not my problem." "How can you be so cold? After everything we shared." "We shared nothing," he corrected. "I provided. You took. That was our marriage in a nutshell." Aria's expression hardened, the mask of vulnerability slipping to reveal anger. "You bastard. You ruined my life." Again with the blame. Logan shook his head. "That's always been your go-to, hasn't it? Nothing is ever your fault. Always someone else to blame. You could help me if you wanted to. You're just being cruel because you can." "I could help you," Logan acknowledged, "but I won't. Not because I'm cruel, but because you haven't learned anything. You're still the same person who betrayed me, still looking for someone to solve your problems, still refusing to take responsibility." He stepped past her, heading for his truck. "Goodbye, Aria." She grabbed his arm. "You can't just walk away from me." Logan looked pointedly at her hand until she released him. "I already did. 6 months ago. Move on." "I have." He got in, started the engine, and pulled out. Through the window, he saw Aria's face contoured with rage, then collapse into real tears. For the first time, perhaps, she was facing the reality of her choices without anyone to bail her out. As he drove away, Logan felt no satisfaction in her suffering, no joy in her downfall, only a sense of closure, the final chapter in a story that had ended long ago. In the weeks that followed, Logan found himself smiling more, laughing with his employees, accepting invitations to social events he would have declined before. He expanded the shop again, adding a custom performance division that quickly gained a reputation for excellence. Car enthusiasts from across the country sought out Stone's auto and performance for modifications and restorations. Occasionally, he heard updates about Cole and Aria through the grapevine. Cole had sold what remained of Iron Titan and moved to another state. Aria had eventually found work as a waitress, sharing an apartment with 2 roommates. Logan absorbed these details without emotion, mere characters in his past, not figures in his present or future. One evening, he drove his truck along the coastal highway, windows down, the setting sun painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. The engine hummed with power beneath the hood, a beast he built and refined himself. He wasn't bitter, wasn't broken. If anything, he was stronger, more focused, more appreciative of what he had built and who he was. Aria was gone, Cole was ruined, his business thrived, and his dignity remained intact. Because in the end, Logan Stone didn't forgive, didn't forget, and he never lost. He pressed the accelerator, feeling the surge of power as the truck responded. The road stretched before him, leading away from the setting sun into the gathering darkness. But Logan wasn't afraid of the dark. He'd been through it already and emerged on the other side. Stronger, wiser, free. He drove toward the horizon. No regrets, no looking back, only forward, always forward.